Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the Point 99 podcast. Bonus episodes excluded. A running podcast dreamed up by runners, for runners, talking about, you guessed it, running. If you're new to running, we hope to have topics and discussions that will help you along whatever path your journey is taking. Or, for any seasoned runners listening, maybe some stories that will have you empathizing with our experiences and predicaments. We'll share the lot. Whether it's lessons we've learned during our own journeys, embarrassing stories, or heartstring pulling moments, we hope you'll stick with us and hopefully have a laugh along the way, sharing good vibes, positivity, and motivation. But enough about what you can expect from the show. Who are we? Well, you've already heard a lot about me at Mr_Steve_runs on Instagram. But we also have another Steve joining us, my co-host, for this new adventure. Running Man Steve, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks, can't complain. A lot going on today, but thankfully found some time to do this. Been looking forward to this. Come out of the blue, didn't it? Really, but yeah, I'm in a good place, mate. Thank you.
I know. I think I dropped this idea on you, but it's one that I know that you've had ideas of it yourself for a while.
Yeah.
You have mentioned it in stories, and actually talking about stories, the way you share a lot of stories in your own running stories at the moment. I used to do that, and I thought that's what really ties us together, and I thought it was a really good way. We were both doing similar things, so why not give it a shout?
Absolutely. I think the point in which you shouted out to me with this one was when I was meant to be 5 tips, it turned out to be 10 tips because I just procrastinated a lot and went off on a tangent about my marathon experience. But I know we come to that at another point. And when you messaged, I said, yeah, let's do this. I've toyed with podcasts for a very long time, not just with running. There was the idea of doing a football podcast with a few of my friends that never materialised. So no, I'm excited to do this, and hopefully some people out there will find it useful.
Yeah, I think that's the hope as well, because I find with a lot of stuff you hear, like when we're trying to find tips from other marathon runners, they're usually club runners or they're really experienced, and some of the tips they have just seem over the top for people like us. Like, I've run 2 marathons, you've run one. We're still really early doors, so for sharing experience, I would like to think that we were more of the common man's sort of approachable characters.
I think that would be fair to say. Yeah, I've never been part of a running club. I might come across as confident on Instagram, but there are times where my personality says, "Yeah, you're a bit too much of an introvert for a club, my friend." So stick to what you know works.
Yeah.
That being said, I did a park run. You will see it in my stories. I done a park run on Saturday, my first one in a long time, and met up with a few from Instagram, like a little social run. So it's a step in the right direction, but I'm more of a solo runner. I do my own thing with the guidance of my training coach on my app.
Yeah, no, I'm again, that's where we're very similar. I'm a solo runner, more because of the geographic areas, and there are groups. There's Jog Scotland, but they are, for me, either a lot slower or a lot faster. There's no middle ground for running. I could join a local athletics group, but again, there's a bit of a wait list for it, and it is kind of out. As much of an extrovert I am, it's still out of my comfort zone to turn up as the new person. Same as joining a gym. You're always going to be that new guy, and they're all going to be really welcoming, but you don't want to really step out that comfort zone.
Yeah, no, that is fair to say, to be fair. And plus, also, I like the fact of being a solo runner. I can do what I want when I want. So through what I do for work and being a full-time dad, it doesn't always allow me to say I'll be there at Tuesday at 7 p.m. because often I might not be able to get there. So it all seems like a bit pointless. So if I'm doing something, I'm going to do it properly. So if I do it, I'll do it solo. Might do a couple of social runs here or there just to break it up. But other than that, it's just me, myself, or for London, pavement.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, you're right. It is commitment. Life will always take preference, and it should always take the forefront to commitments like that.
I don't want to say we're not athletes because everyone that takes part in this fantastic sport, we are all athletes in our own right. But if I put it into context of someone that's their be all end all, that's what they do. They train and they go to championships and whatnot. We've got life, and I think that's what makes our stories resonate more with others, because hopefully there's someone listening who is also a full-time parent and where can I fit it in, and so on and so forth.
Just trying to fit everything, trying to fit running around life and not life around running.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think for me, I was talking to my wife actually last night about this, and I do sometimes find, because we're not parents, and I find sometimes with other people that aren't parents, and they say, I don't have enough time in the day to go for a run. Well, how do you not have enough time in the day? If you get up at a sensible hour and you go to bed at a sensible hour, so you get the block of sleep that you need, how do you not have enough time in the day? You work maybe 8 hours a day for the most. You've got a lot of time left in the day.
Yeah, it's all priority, isn't it? What's important to you? And to be fair, I sort of have more, respect's the wrong word, understanding if someone just says to me, you know what, I can't be bothered. But when it's that I haven't got enough time in the day, is that there's always half an hour somewhere you can slot it in. I mean, I think I had this conversation with someone at work last week, talking about my running. Oh, and I ain't got enough time in the day. And then just an hour later, it's telling me that they watched an entire series of Netflix on their day off. I was like, had time.
That's it. Yeah.
You've got half an hour, get outside. Just say you don't want to do it.
It's priorities. Enjoy life. Watch Netflix, but watch maybe an episode and then look forward to it the next day and go for a half-hour run.
Absolutely. I always say, whatever you do in life, you need to enjoy. We only get one crack at life, so whatever you do, enjoy it. So if you don't enjoy running, don't do it. Find a different sport. Don't do something you hate, because it's just absolutely a waste of life.
And I think that's definitely a point as well, though. You might not like running, but there's always something for you, whether it takes you a little bit of time to find what sport is for you, whether it's cycling, and it could be static cycling, or whether it is treadmill running, because I hate treadmill running, but you love it, or you seem to love it by comparison.
You would have seen my stories from the other day when I've done the tempo session. It was horrendous.
I'm definitely not looking forward to it. With the holiday coming up, and I know the temperatures aren't gonna be friendly for running. I'll have to get up early and either run around the complex, or I'm gonna have to go to the gym and use the treadmill. And it's not something I'm looking forward to. But having a half marathon a week after I come back, I'm gonna have to do some training, as much as I know I could just rock up and do it. And actually do it properly, not just do what I used to do and rock up and do it and then have an injury or blister myself to beyond belief. I can actually just rock up and do it as a confident, semi-competent participant now.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're going to move on though. we've done a nice bit of introduction and how our weeks have kind of gone and who we are, but we're going to move on to a little bit more about our actual history and how we got into running and fitness generally. So to give anyone listening the opportunity to learn more from us, your hosts, we've decided to spend the first episode sharing a little history about our journey, how we got into where we are today with running and what might have come before. There are undoubtedly going to be listeners on both Instagram circles who aren't aware of who the other person is. So for those people, it's to let you know a little bit about myself or Running Around Steve, so you can then follow our journeys together. You might not want to follow either for whatever reason, and that's fine, but it gives you some context about who your hosts of the podcast are, so then you can feel more connection to the podcast and think I'm actually just like those guys are the everyman runners. So Steve, can you give us a little bit about your story and how you got into running, fitness generally, what might have come before it, clubs, athletics, and any teams?
Okay, yeah. So I am. It's a cliche, but it's true. So I'm going to use it. I am just an everyday runner. Like, I have no ambitions to ever try and achieve more than what I'm doing now, in a sense of excuse me, in you see people go races for championships and so on and so forth. So my running, I've always been able. I've been one of those annoying people, actually, Steve, that can pick up and drop physical activity when I felt like it and have not much in the way of an issue. However, I was never the sporty type when I was at school. I didn't take part in sports days, and you hear that quite often with everyday runners these days. Is I didn't do sports days at school when it was free, but now I'll happily pay through the nose for the latest trainers, kit, events. I'll pay it. I'll happily pay it. Oh, was that it? It's 50 quid?
Yeah, but gone are the days of us being kids where it's £12 for a pair of shoes and just go and have to do cross country or a running track.
Yeah, no, I didn't do it. If you got to sports days, I said, I'm going to sit this one out. And to be fair, some of it was due to the fact that I wasn't confident enough. If I go back to an incident, I was in year 7, so 11 years old, playing for my secondary school team, defender, and the ball hit me and went in, and I couldn't deal with the amount of
the pressure and the responsibility of that.
Yeah, and even though it's one of those things, I didn't have the character to basically tell them where to go with their thoughts. But that being said, things like that build you and mold you as you get older. So if they didn't happen, maybe I wouldn't be, the way I am now. But if we fast forward back to where we are now, so my sister actually, she tagged me in. There was a craze during a part of the pandemic, a bit like the Ice Bucket Challenge, was run 5 kilometres, donate a £5. I can't remember what the charity was.
I remember that, actually. Now you said it, that had slipped to the back of my mind. But yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah. And then nominate 5 people. And I wasn't on Instagram at this point. So I thought, all right, I'll do that. And I actually really enjoyed doing it because that was during, like I said, during some lockdowns. And I thought, I'll go on a couple of runs here and there. And during those runs, I had a little thought to myself of, what if I was to do an Instagram page to keep me accountable and see where I can go with this? Spoke to a few of my friends. I think, do you think this would be stupid? Am I being? Does anyone really care? Because you might understand this as well, Steve. We have family and friends who are supportive, but if we was to tell them every day how I run, when I go, mate, you are boring. Shut up.
Yeah, no, I think it's the same for me. That's why I've got 2 Instagrams. One is my friends, family, and colleagues, because I don't want to bore them. I don't put it on Facebook either because they don't care. They support me. They donate to any charities, but they ultimately don't really care.
Yeah, like there's Steve, I don't care if you hit a mile in 6 minutes 20. I don't care. So they said, yeah, go for it. So we set that up, and I thought to myself initially, maybe if I get 50 to 100 people following, this would be fantastic. And it just absolutely took off. And I was trying to think, why has it taken off so much? And the fact that it took off so much was, okay, I'll keep going. And I was learning about more events and certain people that I follow that have been there since day one. A follow we have in common, Lipstick and Trainers, Emma, incredibly with Emma and Run Through and whatnot, and I started learning about their events. So where I am today is purely because of the pandemic. If the pandemic didn't happen, I don't think I'd be on the journey that I've been on and where I'm going now. It'd become a lifestyle because there wasn't that strong will before the pandemic. It was very flippant, very, very flippant. I might go to the gym, I might not. Who cares?
Yeah, I suppose that's With the pandemic, your hand was almost forced off. There's very little else you could do, so you had to then fill your day with other things.
I mean, obviously, I was fortunate to have some form of structure because I was still working on at work. It was based so myself, my team, and the duty managers team for the whole place that I work in, because we still had to, by regulation, still be on site. But there was the ugly side of my job, and that was I had to have conversations with people that have maybe been in the airport for 15, 20 years, some a year, didn't really matter. I'm really sorry, but you've not got a job anymore. And that weighed very, very heavily on my conscience. And it did affect me. It affected my home life more than I thought it was doing. So I needed to find an outlet, and running was my outlet to just get out there and just dump as many stresses as I can, and then come home. And and then still do the day-to-day runnings of home. And I think my daughter was 1 at the time, so we still had a sort of structure in place there. But the running was my escape to almost deal with the fact that I've had to do some ugly, horrible conversations. So it definitely, I think it saved me mentally. It's where I am with that one. Previously, I'd done a couple of 10Ks. I think it was called the British 10K. It might be the Essex 10K now. I think they took over it. I'd done it in 2014, 2015. Done a little cancer research, but nothing of substance, no training, not like I am now. I'm enjoying the running a lot more now that I know what I'm doing. There's still a lot I can learn, but it's from people like yourself and others that we talk to day in, day out on a platform where the running community really, really care.
So with those 10Ks, sorry, did you just turn up and it was a suck it and see sort of thing on the day, or did you do a little bit of training before those?
I did not train whatsoever. I mean, I turned up one time in a very, very baggy pair of Nike bottoms, an oversized T-shirt that was as red as anything can be, saying the Bobby Moore Cancer Foundation, I think it was called. And there's a picture of me just sitting there after, and I was absolutely battered in. I think someone would learn from that. But fast forward, I went to 2014 and 2015 British 10Ks, just rocked up like, yeah, no worries. And they were awful runs. If I look back on them now, they were disgusting runs. I weren't prepared for it. I hadn't trained for them. Out of breath. Awful.
If you're anything like me, though, you look back on those photos and you think, who is that guy? Why did I turn up like that? I look horrendous. What's that all about?
What are you doing? But there are people that will turn up like that for events now. And I think, I used to go to the gym quite often as a naturally slim person. I was obsessed with trying to get big. And it took me a while to realize genetically that was not my makeup. But there are people that go to the gym and they might have, I don't know about in Scotland, mate, but in London, some of the outfits are shockers.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
Leather shoes. They are rascal, but they are doing what they think they know. So rather than, we don't ridicule people, we might have a little chat and say you might benefit more if you were in something else, maybe, for example. But I look back on those pictures and I'm just like, what were you doing, you fool?
No, you're right. It's maybe more of a London thing. Seeing the way some people are dressed. There's a lot of people up here, but at the same time, they've kind of followed the trend of if it's the lassies, it tends to be the yoga pants style leggings and the kind of crop tops, and the guys tend to be the short shorts or the big baggy shorts and the vest tops. It's quite generic American style, I would say.
If you ever come to London, just come to Ilford with me and I'll show you some things.
Some sights, true sights.
You will think I'm getting out of the South now.
So going back to what you're saying about playing for the school team, was it literally just the school football team? There was no furtherment there. You finished school and you cut off ties with any involvement with teams and sports?
No, it was literally just a school football team, year 7. The football kit was absolutely horrendous. I was the last year of that school that had all purple. Right? So we would turn up to these football matches, and we just we looked like we'd been slapped with a can of Vimto. We were just purple shorts, purple t-shirt, purple socks. It was horrendous. And after school, I just started working after school. I didn't really do, maybe the only activity I do is go and play football with my friends or get up very early to go to the gym on my non-successful mission to just get big. Because that was sort of the pressures when I was around about 20 to 23. Everyone that I knew was just trying to get big. Oh, got to get big muscles because that's what a man should look like. But now it's like I embrace what I am now. I am still naturally slim, around about 10 stone 6, 5'11", but it enables me to run at paces that I can and enables me to do so for long distances. So I've learned to embrace who I am and not try and be something for anyone else.
I can definitely empathize and kind of tie in with that. I'm the same. I grew up with the you had to lift weights, you had to have muscles, and I'm 6'4", and I just dipped under 14 stones. So I'm on the threshold of what is healthy for, or they say what is healthy for a 6'4" guy.
Yes.
So it's a lot more work to get muscles, and it's just one of those ones where unless you're at it day in day out, and you're hitting your protein targets and you're doing everything that you need to do, it's not going to work for the average Joe like me, who is just there maybe in the bedroom or in nowadays in the shed doing strength and conditioning, just hitting it maybe every twice a week or something. It's more sustaining muscle rather than building muscle.
That's exactly. I'm more interested now in making sure that my muscles and joints can cope with the load that we're putting through our bodies when we're running, particularly now in marathon training, because that was one of my downfalls in the last one. So yes, I'm doing more what my body how it can help me, rather than trying to put it through stress for a goal that is not that important.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of runners likely have their downfall is strength and conditioning. So certainly I was the same. You have to maintain your muscles. That you can run and you'll build muscle, but unless you're doing all the other parts that go with it, you'll hurt your knees, you'll pull your calves, you'll do untold damage to yourself, and then you'll be off for weeks and you'll be sitting sulking because you can't go out running. You haven't done your strength and conditioning. You haven't done what you need to do, and that's what we both know now that you have to do. You have to take running seriously to the point where if you're not an everyday runner, I'm not an everyday runner. You're more of an everyday runner than I am. But you have to think about, if you're running on a schedule like I am, a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Sunday, fit in some strength and conditioning in and around that, and have a rest day, have a day off. And it's not gonna hurt you having a day off. But if you don't do any form of strength and conditioning, it's gonna hurt you.
No, that's absolutely true. So for me, I'm running on a Monday, Wednesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday, and then I chuck in a strength and conditioning on a Wednesday. So if I don't put that in the middle of the week, I will feel it by the end of the week. So I'm feeling really good now because I'm doing that. And surprisingly, I'm going into a deload week next week, week 4, and I still feel fresh. So the importance of strength and conditioning is speaks for itself.
Now, with strength and conditioning, are you someone that regularly uses foam rollers or a massage gun?
Yeah, so I actually class that for myself as recovery, because I can do it very easily at home. So I never take any of that stuff with me to the gym. When I go to the gym, I just use weights, and not necessarily heavy weights, just enough to load onto the body to build the muscle, rather than just doing body weight only. But at home, I will use, most nights, every other night, I will use my my foam roller and massage gun. Absolutely.
Cool. That's a great insight into how you got going. It really I think it's a story that a lot of people have of they're almost forced to do sport when they're at school, and then it kind of dies a death until a point that you're really have to look at your life and go, right, I'm not getting any younger. I need to try to look after myself. And you might then join an amateur league football team or a kick around group, but more approachable for everyone is running. And I suppose with what you mentioned with parkrun as well, it is more approachable and accessible to a lot of people. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Most of us do. But yes, you really don't have to spend a lot of money on it.
I think that is the biggest lie ever told, is go running, it's free. And then you realise, no, because it's got worse. Even if I go to like an outlet, you're still going to spend quite a bit in there because it's cheap. Gold is cheap, so I'll buy some more stuff.
We're going to hopefully have in the podcast, we're going to have one of my friends who's really on the early stages of his running journey. And I did say to him, he was asking, what do I need to really get going? I think you just need a cheap pair of shoes. That's all you need. Something that's not going to hurt your feet. Just try them on. They have to be comfortable, but don't go too crazy because you might not like it. And what's the point of spending lots of money? Come the next day, he's ordered himself like one of the middle to high range Garmin watches. He's ordered one of the higher range Brooks shoes, and he's ordered all these clothes. And like, whoa, dude, you're what are you doing? And in reality, he did go out for a running session, and he used the Garmin app, put in all his details, and he went for it, and he put himself off. So that's when I come back from holiday. That's one of my tasks, to get him back out, to be a friend and semi-coach of, I kind of know what I'm doing, but get him running from lamppost to lamppost. But he just went over the top, and I think a lot of people think you have to do that to be a runner, but you can just put shoes on. But when you're looking at Instagrams like ours and you're seeing the sales on, and you're buying a £60 pair of shoes in the sale, or a £120 pair of shoes, or if you're the Vaporflies, how much are they? £200?
They are. I think that they're. So I got a pair of those in the Black Friday sale. So there was 224. Then it went down to 134, and then I think I got an extra 25% off because I was a Nike member. So I think I paid £101 for them. They're sitting in my wardrobe. I thought, I'm not taking them out yet. I want to take them out for a race. But yes, they are sitting in my wardrobe because calling me on a daily basis. I'm like, not yet.
Have you broken them in?
I went out for like a child at Christmas. They come, they've got to come on my feet right now. So I put them on, and I was literally, if you would have seen it, I was walking around my flat, much like in Step Brothers when Will Ferrell says we can do so much activity in here when he makes the. I was like, we can run fast, we can jump, no one can. And I went out for a 1 mile run, and with no extra effort, I think I put in a mile in about 6:10, 6:18, something around that figure. And I thought, these are like rockets. I put them back in the cupboard, so they're hiding there. So yeah, a bit like Jumanji, they're calling me from the wardrobe. You can wait.
I had the same. We'll get onto my history in a little bit, but I had the same when I started off with Brooks, and it was Ghosts, and I can't remember. I think it was Ghost 12s years ago, and I bought them for a Christmas present or something. The folks had bought it for me, and they were in the sale, so got these Brooks 12s, and I've been running in them. And at the time, they were quite big, thick heels. The drop on it, I didn't know about drops at the time, and I went for it, and they were okay. And then I made them last for ages, and I got another pair of Brooks, and they got faster. And then I moved over to On Running, and I got these, I think it was the Cloud Flyers. And oh my God, when you put them on, it's just like you say, it's like rockets. It's like you just had NASA strap some rockets to your feet, and it just felt so much faster.
And they feel so different. They feel like you're walking in because the hills are so big for the cushioning, for the drop, and you're like, wow, these are so much more different. So, I just new trainers and put them on. I just, like someone did say to me, I said to him, what's the Vaporflies like? He goes, it's better off if you don't know. It'll be cheaper. Don't know. And now I'm here. I've got them. I've bought some Nova Blast. I've got Pegasus. I'm like, what am I doing?
I've just remembered the name that my friend bought. He bought the Gelsons. I think it's the Gelsons they're called. And they are like the premium Brooks shoe. It's just like, what are you doing? You should have gone for the Ghosts to begin with, mate. Do you have an event in mind for them though? Do you have something booked to get the Pegasus, to get the Vaporflies out?
Well, so one thing I'm going to do during this marathon block is I am going to put some races in there. So I didn't do any races apart from the big half 4 weeks prior to the marathon, just to see where I was at. I think I'd done a 1:38 in that half marathon.
Yeah, you did a phenomenal time in that. I remember seeing that because you quite rightfully so were chuffed, kind of pleased as punch on your stories.
So I was so happy that, because, I thought to myself, it was an amazing time. It was a great thing, and it was just validation of where I was. But looking back on it, I know that probably could have gone quicker. It might sound crazy, and I don't want anyone thinking I'm sounding ungrateful. It's because someone says, "Oh yeah, I think I've done my PB of 21:07." One of the girls from Instagram, Lucy, she went, "You've just run a 21:07. It's like it's nothing." So it's not that. I just hold myself quite high. I can be quite high.
Yeah.
Quite hard on myself sometimes. But I do know with strength and conditioning, I probably could have run that 2 or 3 minutes quicker. So it's those little lessons we learn. Back to the question, I will use them for some events. I'm looking at a couple of run-through events closer to the time of the marathon. And I might even use my deload week as the long run and deload week at some points as a race week. I know it kind of goes against, but I would have done less mileage coming up to that point. So I will do, because I will not run the marathon in a pair of trainers that I've not done enough distance on, because that can be a complete game changer and just ruin your day.
Yeah, you very much could ruin your feet that way if you've not really broken them in. You don't have enough practice in them to really get them going. And with what you were saying there about times and other people looking at times, I think there is a bad habit from runners. As much as we know we shouldn't, we look at other people and we think, I could be running that. But we are on our own journeys, and we all run different times. You can be envious of it all you want, but you have to accept you are who you are, and your strength and conditioning and your training can get you so far, but we're different heights, we're different weights. We were fairly similar for a long time, but at the end of the day, you are a smaller, more agile beast than I am. And so your times will be effectively quicker than mine.
Yeah, and I've always said it's what you need to remember. It is relative. Now, I in a reverse thing, I won't look at someone and go, oh, I wish I could do that. So there are certain athletes or out there and people on Instagram that are super, super quick, but I see it as aspirational. How close can I get to there without giving all of my life away?
Yes, I think people like the Best Athletics. Is it Best Athletics? Those guys are serious, and they're training day in, day
out. I've had the fortune I've been lucky enough to have a chat with Nick from Best Athletics. Super great guy. He's always been so polite, and he's always been so helpful and a cheerleader. And he's not my coach, but I met him at the London Expo as well. Great guy. But they did them, him, a chap called fellow called Craig. Super good runners and super helpful with sharing their knowledge. So I'll always share my knowledge. So there are people that will send me messages and they say, we find you inspirational. I'll go, how are you finding me inspirational? I'm just Steve from London. I just run every day, and I'm that bloke that just documents everything on the gram, so to speak. But you never know who's watching. So rather than looking at people and wishing you were them, it's just being yourself, and you're helping other people out either way.
Yeah, and we can. I suppose if you're level enough to, as I find you're definitely quite a level guy, to know that there are other accounts that have maybe only got 15 posts or something, and they are very early in their stage. They've just started running because they've signed up for a marathon or a half marathon because they want to do a set goal before they hit a certain landmark age or something. And we were at that stage one point, and the Best Athletics guys know that as well. But at the end of the day, they are what you would categorize as athletes. They are, that's their life.
Absolute animals, honestly. And it's all inspiring. It genuinely is all inspiring. And like I said, people will message me, my little humble self, and say, oh, you've helped me through this week. There's a chap called Rob, whose goal is to do a sub 5 hour marathon. So I'd give him as much. I've never met him, but I'll give him as much support as I can. If he's okay.
Sorry, the dog's going mental there because the posties has come. But I thought we'll continue anyway because it's part of life. We're recording a podcast in and around life.
I'm jealous you get a postie. I mean, I've not seen my one for a long time. I just want to say, if I have any posties I listen, I do apologise. Please send me my letters. Unless they're bills, you can keep.
I mean, maybe you're not getting mail. That's the thing. You might not be getting anything.
Absolutely, yeah, I know, right? But no, like I was saying, there's a chap called Rob, and his aim is, to do sub 5. And so I just check in on him, see how he's doing, see how his running's going. I get him to check in with me and tell me how his run's gone. So if he has those thoughts of, I can't be wanting to go get it, he knows I'm waiting for him to tell me how his run went. So get out there and get it done. Let me know how it went, and you feel better for it. So we help each other out. We have to help each other out. And that's why the running community is for me far better than the gym community. When I was in the gym community, everyone looks. I think there was one time where someone literally said to me, "If you're not X size by X day, I'll take you upstairs and I'll help you." I was like, "Well, I'm getting out of the gym culture because I'm not in it for that." But I've not encountered one rude runner yet. So, and I've been doing it for come on, it's 2 years now.
Yeah, no, I can't. I do know that I've not that I've met rude runners, but there's obviously during race day, there's always going to be runners that come across as rude. And there was an event at the weekend. Was it the Valencia 10K? One of the Spanish ones, wasn't it? And those are when you see those elite athletes, and there was a fall wherever it was. There was a fall, and instead of just stopping, helping everyone up and losing 30 seconds, everyone's just like barged past. And to me, that is a rude runner because they've got it in their head they need to beat their PB on that particular day.
Yes, it's when you get to the point where your statistic individually counts more than the fact that someone could get trampled to death takes over. That's not ideal. And I'm not saying everyone in the running community is a fantastic person, because like all life, there's bad apples everywhere. But by and large, it's been very welcoming. And the fact that I was welcomed into a community, I am then owed to pass it on and welcome someone else into it and make them feel that, okay, they might not be what they think a super quick runner, but you're a runner because you're getting out there. And I did say to Rob, I said, mate, it's harder for someone to run a 5-hour marathon than it is for me to try and get 3.5 hours, because you spend a lot more time on your feet, your cadence is far lower, more stress on the body. So in fact, you running a 5-hour marathon is harder.
Yeah, exactly. But like, also going back on what you were saying there, we are all early. We were once all early on our Instagram kind of journeys and lives, and we were trying to find our feet, and there were people that helped us to get confident and find our feet. And for both of us, actually, I think Emma of Lipstick and Trainers, handle name, she was really good, and she was still quite a sizable influencer at the time, but she took the time to help us feel welcome in the community. And I think that's what it takes sometimes. I always find if I'm scrolling through my feed and I see someone's had a post up for 24 hours, and it's not that we're doing it for likes, it's about accountability. But at the same time, if someone's done a really good session and they've got a PB or something, and they just don't have any likes on it, I feel that you have to give it back to them, not just drop them a like, but also drop them a comment, because you never know what they might be looking at that or scrolling through their phone, opening their app every couple of minutes and going, I'm not getting any interaction here, and it might adversely affect them. And yes, that maybe toys with the mental side of things, but it is about supporting people that are early on their journey who maybe need to learn that it's not about likes. It is about sharing your journey, but also supporting each other at the same time.
No, that absolutely. I think there was a little story of people you don't know your impact, and what maybe your account means to them and what they take from it. So during the London Marathon last year, I think I got to about 3 to 4 miles in, 3 miles, because just before we all met up with the colour wave starts, and I hear this voice from behind me shout, "Steve," and I'm thinking, I don't know one on the course today. Well, I do, but they're not in different areas. So I turn around and there's this fella. I'm thinking, where do I know you from? But I'm not going to be rude. I'm like, hey, how you doing? So on and so forth. And he asks for a selfie. Now, this blew my tiny little mind. I was thinking, you're asking me? I don't get it. I said, yeah, no, go for it, mate. And then I spent about the rest of about 5 miles thinking, who was that? Who was that? Who was that? And then I got tagged in a post. I went, oh, it's you. I didn't. Do you know what I mean? I've messaged.
I do exactly what you mean. I had a similar thing where I was registration for the Baxter's Loch Ness last year, and I'd finished my registration and I was going back towards the car, and I sees this guy, and he looked at me, I looked at him. I go, I know your face, but could I remember his name? Could I remember where from? And I was pretty confident it was Instagram, and it was only like 3 hours later. I'd gone through all different configurations of names that I thought it was, and it ended up being something completely different. But it's amazing how you see people where you don't expect to see them as well now.
Yeah, and that's the great part of it. You know, I've already sent out some messages for London Marathon this year, going, anyone, let's meet up at the thing. We get the numbers because you're much more confident in that. There are some people doing marathon for the first time. They might want someone to travel with. So I know a couple of people in the area. Well, not my area, but they're going to use the same station as me. So it's just making it as easy as possible for each other.
Yeah, definitely. And we're gonna hopefully not hopefully, definitely. Episode 2 is we're gonna focus on our marathon experiences. Now, like I've already said, Steve's done one,
Yeah.
and he's currently in his marathon block, training block for London Marathon again this year, which is
Yeah.
it just seems to be a blink of an eye because it was October last year and it's back to April this year. It's April, isn't it?
Yes, it's April 23rd.
Yeah. So we will cover how we got on with our. Well, for me, it was my Edinburgh Marathon was last May was my first marathon, and Steve's first London Marathon in October. We also have more discussions on how Steve's training is going for London this year. But I'll also then cover how my second marathon went in comparison to my first, and the complete difference of how I felt that went, because I had a little bit of knowledge and the experience behind it. But certainly for anyone running a marathon for the first time, it is really good to meet people on the marathon day, on the marathon morning, because they're going to help settle your nerves. And if you can reach out to the community, if you know someone's running a marathon you're going to, everyone's generally a genuinely nice person. I don't think I've met anyone from the community that has been anything but that so far.
No, absolutely same. Even when you go to these expos, I was chatting away to just random strangers. Chat to a guy from Boston, and he was running. His story was he was running London as his final start, and I was like, oh, chat with him on his journey, and it's inspiring. I mean, I'll never. And I can categorically, I always say never, but I'll categorically say never will I be collecting all of the marathon majors. But it's inspiring to see that somebody is doing what they're doing, and it pushes you a bit further. But absolutely, we'll cover it in the marathon one. But I would always say just help each other out, because a conversation can take away the stress and the thought of what you're about to go and do, because the marathon is no joke. It's not a party. There's party vibes to it, but you find out a lot about yourself.
You definitely do learn a lot about yourself, and yeah, we'll cover that. We'll cover that in more detail in episode 2, which we hope will be in a fortnight's time from when this one drops, because we won't put a time. We're not time stamping this because it may not go out the week that we're recording it, and then there's a knock-on effect to when the second one recording. But our plan is definitely to be a bi-weekly podcast, and we want to share our journey and things that we find will help the community first, before we then potentially look at bringing in other influential or inspirational athletes that we connect with, and we think that would help the other members of the community.
Yeah, that would be good, and obviously hopefully this is coming across very well for people. It's the first time I've ever done a podcast, so yeah, there'll be teething issues here and there, won't there? We go off a tangent a little bit, but that's real life.
Barking in the background.
have a postman deliver a letter. You know, it's all good. It's all fine.
I don't know. He's actually delivering more shoes. That's what he's delivering. No, he's not.
He's got more vaporflies, hasn't he? He's got more. Yeah. Are you with that as a question? Actually, are you specific to one brand, or do you like just? I float about different brands. Are you the type of person that would do that, or do you just say, you know what, I'm going to stick to that one brand and that's it?
No, I float around. As I say, I started with Brooks. Just on, I didn't really know anything about running shoes or where to start and what heel drops were, heel toe drops. So it was go on the running machine and run for it, one of the local stores, and give it a go. And they would check how your footfall was, and they would say, okay, that's quite a neutral, supportive shoe. that's fine for you. And that's how it started for me
Yeah.
with Brooks. I then kind of, just because I'd used Brooks before, I then upgraded to the more recent version of them. And I kind of stuck with the brand because I also won a pair of shoes during lockdown. There was this not Park Run and Run Happy Scotland.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I was one of like, I think, two winners. I don't think there was anyone else. And the girl who won the first lot, I don't think she's on Instagram anymore. But I saw that she'd won a pair of shoes. I didn't think this was a thing, and I thought, oh, good on her. But I wish it was me. And then I get a DM dropped in, and it was another pair of ghosts. But at the same time, I did have vouchers for. I was given vouchers for different places, and I thought, well, what can I use these on? And it just so happened they had On Running, and I'd been almost not fantasizing about the On Running, because you see them online, you think they're very expensive at the time. When you don't really know anything about running shoes, you're looking at the price and you're going, that's expensive. But I had the money
Yeah.
there, I had the voucher, so I did kind of move over to On Running, and like I said previously, it was like night and day for me. They were a lot lower profile. I can't say I still knew anything about the heel drop, but the only downsides to what I was finding with those were, because you've got that cloud um, profile underneath, it's prone to getting stones and gravel, and because of my location, it's almost impossible to run anywhere without getting gravel on your foot, and you can feel every lump and bump. But it didn't put me off. I stuck with On Running at the same time as Brooks. I kind of tried to almost cycle through my shoes, which I didn't know was a thing at the time. I just did it. Um, but I've very much been a Brooks and On Running guy. I'm more Brooks at the moment. I've used
Yeah.
the Stealth, the Levitate Stealth Fits, and they've almost done a thousand kilometers. They're such a good shoe, and I actually run my marathon in those. But then I do like to not just stick to one shoe as well within a brand, and I do have my current running ones are the Ricochet. I think they're probably more my shoe, but without then also just buying another pair of those, which I fully intend to do because they are perfect for me. I'm now moving over to Hoka to really give them a go as well, and see, because you never know what brands is for you unless you try most of the brands. And I definitely know that New Balance isn't for me. I've tried a couple of their shoes and it just doesn't work. So try Hoka. But yeah, I tend not to just stick to one brand, but at the same time, I've had a lot of Brooks and they are proven to be very good for my running style.
Yeah, that's to sit finding and training for your style, isn't it? Really, I remember when I know you went going back to the point you said about going on the treadmill. It reminds me of a funny thought I had years back. So in the shopping centre just by me, Westfield, Stratford, they used to have I think it was an Asics. I'm not sure an Asics, but they had a part in it where you could put the trains on and run up and down. And I remember my younger self, walking past and thinking, what are they running up and down the shop for? What's wrong with them? And now I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't find shops to run up and down.
It's as well though. It's better when you do, if you don't, if I've on a way I've been lucky. So my mum worked in retail, and she worked in shoes for a while in a shoe shop. So I knew about where's the pressure point of your heel and your toe, because a lot of brands it bursts through, and at that point I can't remember what's their name. You've probably seen them as well. I have them in all my shoes now, but it's like a toe shield. I'll find the name and I'll share it on social media. But I have to have these in my shoes now because I'm really toe heavy, and it stops me getting that really big hole. But they've also now got a heel protector, and that's what I found when I didn't have them in my Levitates, and I've got a big hole in the heel now. But I've since learned that they do these heel protectors. So my Hokas, fingers crossed, won't have any holes in the toes or the heels.
What sort of foot striker are you? Because I've never had any issues at all like it.
I say I'm very toe heavy. I don't run on my toes, which is really odd that you would be toe heavy then. I do strike the heel first. I'm a heel strike and then roll to the toe. But it's like when I get to the toe, I really force the toe.
Yeah, I've not really. So you see, for me, I'm more of a mid-foot striker.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I've not had those issues there. But it's interesting learning about different people and how they run and what effects they got to have to get the most out of their running shoe.
But that goes the same with what we were saying with everyone's different with fitness and times. Same with shoes. Everyone's different with shoes and the way that we plant our feet. And it reminds me of the last half marathon I did in Inverness, and I've signed up for the one coming up in March. But I was running along, I was about halfway round, and I hear this guy say to a girl behind me, "Oh, you've got such a nice running style. You're constantly on your toes." And she was so shocked. She took it in the way it was meant. It was really nice. But at the same time, she was like really shocked that there was someone nerdy enough to notice foot strike and appreciate that style might actually be like the prime running style.
Yes, I guess with that, the prime running styles, whatever works for each individual. But as long as you're not overreaching, it's you're all good, really. I mean, I've spent, and we'll go into and onto the marathon training episode, but it's worked a lot. I've worked a lot more on my form to help performance and help the body. So it's definitely something that is worth somebody's time if you are a new runner listening to this. There's a lot of information out there. You can message us for advice, but form is so important, and I use my easy runs to lock my form down. But it's all different, isn't it? Really,
well, it's not something you look at when you start out. You're not looking at your form. You're not really. You're just interested about getting around whatever your target is, and for most people, it tends to be the first either a mile or a 5K. And they just want to get round the torture of that. They don't care about the form. Whereas in reality, the form would help a lot more. And things like cadence as well. It's really nerdy in a way, but it does help to know what your form and cadence is.
Like many, I've learned the hard way. I've been in the physio room a few times from various issues, and that's how we've learned. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the only way you are going to learn.
Yeah, you learn through injury, and that's it's a negative of, and I think it puts a lot of people off. But you do learn through your experiences. You can only take so much from other people's experiences, but you can only really learn from your own. And if you have to subject yourself to an injury, you learn a lot more from it.
Absolutely. Just I always say, take as much information as you can from others, and then take the bits that would work for you. Try them. If they work for you, they work for you. If they don't, they don't. But it's the way I approach anything in life. I'll listen. I'll take everyone's knowledge, and I'll just work out what works for me.
Yeah. I think at this stage, though, I'll jump on, because you have started that. You started there with asking it really about what shoes the brands I'm with, and for a little bit of context for anyone else, I'll go through a little bit of my history, and it's very similar to your own. It starts off secondary school, and again, geographically speaking, the main things that you do certainly where I am, and I think for a lot of schools in Scotland, it's all about cross country. You either play football, hockey, swim, or you do cross country. We don't have such a thing as running tracks unless you're maybe one of the city schools in Glasgow or Aberdeen, Edinburgh. So you're doing cross country, and it was something that I was always middle of the field. I couldn't really be bothered. I loved PE, like everyone loves PE, but I just couldn't be bothered. And it's funny now, because it's the same routes that I'm running. I deliberately go and run now, and at the time I was running these going, oh, I just want it to be over. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
But it started there for me. I kind of almost fell into I fell into athletics then, because I was, like I say, the 6'4", or it would have been a little bit shorter at the time. But when you're like the tallest guy in your year, it's inevitable that it falls upon you, if you have any interest in sport, that you'll do the triple jump and the long jump. So I had a little bit of interest, but like with a lot of people, I think unless you're really into your sport or your running, it did drop off when I left the school. I didn't really do anything when I started working, which is looking back, you can always look back in hindsight. I think maybe I should have joined a club, or maybe I should have done things. But you are, well, certainly I was less confident back then. I was a really shy guy that I just wanted to play computer games and get my work done, and that was it. I didn't really want to step out of my comfort zone, and it really took a good number of years before I found myself listening to colleagues who were cyclists, and that's really where I've come from. Is cycling and jumping on a road bike and cycling 100 miles, which might sound to other people like a hard thing to do, and in reality it is. But that's where I got up to the point where I was cycling a long distance, but I was never really, I still then fit. I when I did eventually get into running, because of the same members of the office who had got me into cycling, it kind of got me into, well, maybe you should think about doing a little bit of running. I was running off and on, and I think the big change for me was running a 5K, an official event 5K, and it was my wife that got us to sign up. And it's the same as yourself. It was one of those ones where I look back at the photo and I think, why did I dress like that? Like, who is that guy? But it was really the first stage for me, and it was one of those ones where I didn't train. I turned up, I did okay, got a medal, and that was the main thing. And that's I've always really been running events for medals. I've been one of those people that turns up for the t-shirt and the medal. It's only been more recently that I'm there going, I need the time as well. But the medal, if it's not got a nice looking medal, I ain't gonna do it. There's no point for me.
No, I'm much the same, to be fair. And obviously there's that big contentious argument of should all medals be wooden now, and I'm like, I do like the planet, but I do like a good medal.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of events that have really nice wooden medals, and I think the Russell Bock guys they've got really like beautiful medals. But then there's also just like, it just, to me, it feels like there's no effort in a wooden medal. It's just like someone in their garage has just cut it out and engraved it, which is, it's still an effort. Having been a person, being someone who designs medals for other people, there's effort in that. But you just can't beat a heavy piece of metal that you could knock a child out with.
I mean, just to. I'm not going to bring children out of a medal. My daughter's okay.
But yeah, that kind of stage, it kind of got me into looking at other events. And it's when you live in the Highlands, you're very limited. You've either got your fun runs, the occasional fun run, and you get the little medals that you can buy online. And you think, what's the point in that? It's probably cost £1. But you still do them. But you're also looking at the bigger events. And I've done, I don't know how many Inverness half marathons now. I think it's like 5 or 6. For years, I turned up and I never did any training, or I did very little training, because, like yourself, it's physically. I've always been able to just kind of turn up. I've never carried that much weight. I've always been quite an athletic sort of build, quite slim, and be able to carry myself quite well. But when you've done 2 or 3 years of it and you've not learned from your mistakes, you're still getting blisters because your shoes you haven't changed your whatever shoes you're wearing. You've been using them for years and they've done whatever number of kilometers, are well worn. You think, well, I can't walk, and then you have to walk. So your times are dismal, and you build yourself up to it. And I think my lowest point when it comes to eventing and how my history is, I did turn up at this half marathon, and I ran it, and I had to walk little bits of it, and I was doing really well. But about 3-4 kilometers from the end, I hit the wall, and you think, maybe you don't think it's a thing you can do other than at marathons, but I just hit this wall. I had no energy, and there was this fella, and he had his little boy on his back, on his shoulders, and he must have been cheering all along his partner or something, but he was there to support. And he had this little boy, and he goes to me, "Dude, you look so knackered." He says, "Do you need a chocolate bar or something? Will that help you?" And I'm like, that would be the best. You would be a lifesaver. So he proceeds to take this little boy off his shoulders, and he's got a wee backpack on, and he goes into the little boy's backpack, And he goes in and he takes out this little snack sized chocolate bar and he hands it to me. And in my head, I'm going, I can't take a candy from a kid. I really can't take sweets from a kid. But at the same time, you don't want to be like, no, I really can't. So I took it and I was like really thankful. And I had to run round. I had to run about a kilometer, just like force myself to run till I was out of his eyesight before walking again. It is such a low point. Honestly, but it's from things like that I've learned that you need to really to give training the respect that it deserves. And I fell into American football then, and it was training every Sunday. It was proper like training drills. But it only lasted a few years, unfortunately, because I took a mild concussion at training, not even in a game, and I stuck with the guys. I didn't play anymore. I stuck with them. But you kind of, if you can't play, you're there and you think I can't be here anymore because I want to play. And for your own like physical and mental health, you can step away because you can only, in reality, like any concussion is not good. But you don't then want to take another one. And I did have all the kit on, but I had to step away. But it did instill in me a lot of good traits of this is how you're meant to warm up and cool down. I don't really warm up. I find that every time I warm up for a run, I get hurt because I'm overstretching. So I find it easier to cool down stretch, which works for me. It doesn't work for everyone, but works for me. But it did instill the positives of training. And I kind of found myself then in the summer house lifting weights, doing strength and conditioning. And it was at the same sort of time that I won a competition for a personal trainer for a month. And my coach Matthew of the Strive, he was local. And it did wonders for me. I kept him on for quite a long time, actually, probably about 6 months to a year. And same again, it instilled in me things that I needed to learn to be a more confident, competent runner. For me, however, when we're talking about Instagram, I had to separate my running from my personal Instagram to my running Instagram, just for that accountability for people who you don't know are giving you support. Because as much as your friends and family are supporting you, you don't want to be bombarding them with, I've just run 5k, I've done this speed, I've got this PB. Other people who are in the same shoes as you are, in the same boat, they will appreciate it more. So I thought, I took the time, I split it, and it was a kind of like the stars aligning. I really started taking it a lot more seriously. I had my Instagram. I'd learned a lot of lessons, but I was still making mistakes. I was still pulling muscles. So I think with everyone, I'm still early on in my personal journey with running, but I've now been able to learn so many lessons that I've run 2 marathons. I've run umpteen half marathons to the point where I'm actually running them now and enjoying that level of distance. All because of what came before: the cycling, the PT, the American football, and it also instilled with doing the American football instilled team spirit, and you can continue that to community spirit. You're a little bit more confident with talking to people like yourself. Because I remember actually when we first connected, I was still pretty early on in my my Instagram running community days, and we were very similar at that point. We were just trying to find our feet and find our place in the community. So no, that's a little bit of history about myself. And like you said, with COVID, I think for a lot of people, running helped me a lot. It helped me get out and clear my head, so you weren't just sitting in the house day in day out and stewing over work. Or in my case, running helped me a lot because I had a bereavement of a really close friend. And anyone that remembers back, that follows me, might remember when I started doing my stories, my reels. I wasn't shy. I didn't hide the fact that I was upset. when I found out how he died and the realities of it. But having the community and sharing these sorts of things, sharing emotions, it helped so much. And I think for a lot of people, it is an outlet. Running is an outlet. It clears your head, and it also having Instagram and having people that are in very similar situations, they're having your back. It just helps. It helps so much.
No, it does. It really does. And I often find sometimes, even when I do my stories, in me just talking it out loud, and I've put it out there. It's now on the internet. It's out there. I've got it off my chest, and it's out there, and everyone wants to listen to it, listens to it, and if they want to send a little message, they do. And invariably, people do message. It's fantastic, and people send little message a few days later saying, how are you doing now? How are you coping now? And it's people that you've never met, and often you get the most kindness from the people you've never met in your life before. They invest there's this sort of thing that bonds us together. It's like an invested interest of someone you've not met before, and I think there was one time, I think you was one of the first people to do it. See, I think I didn't post anything for about 4 or 5 days, and you just sent me a DM saying, just checking in. You've not really been active the last few days. It's not really like you. Hey, is everything all right? And I was like, thanks for checking in. Just been a bit busy, I guess. So I took a little break from it all, but little mess like that, it means a lot. And like I said, if it's happened for you, you got to pass it back on to the next person, and they've got to pass it on, and so on and so forth. And now you see that in the way races these days, the likeliness of getting into ballots these days it's like winning the lottery, because so many people are inspired by what they're seeing on television. They're looking after their health. I think London had a ridiculous amount in the ballot, where you had like a 5% chance of actually getting in through the ballot. And the charities, they're fighting people off with a stick these days. So it's fantastic for the sport. It's fantastic for their health and whatnot. But it's important to pass on to each other the kindness that a person before has given you. It's very important to do that.
And you do learn that. You certainly, for me anyway, I took notice that you were maybe not posting every day, maybe posting every other day. And that's something that I tend to do as well. So when you see someone posting for weeks and weeks, and then suddenly they stop, you think, well, hopefully everything's okay. And life does take over. That's what's going to happen. But when someone's had like full steam all the time, and then it just goes radio silence, it's worth checking in on them. And I think that's what the community is really good for, is that having people's back. And you do find your little groups. Certainly we found each other, and you've got your own separate little group, and I've got my own separate little group of people that I met up with before Edinburgh, I've met up with before Loch Ness, and we actually have regular online sessions now, little kind of drinking quiz nights. A lot of these people are you don't class them as acquaintances anymore. They're friends. You pick up. I've made a lot of really good friends from Instagram, from running. And the same can be said for they make the effort to come to events that they might not have otherwise done. And I think the case in point was the bonus episode that I did on the Loch Ness 24, and having the likes of Lee and Jamie. Jamie's runs is his handle, and Control Alt Lee. They kind of stepped out of, right, we don't know anything about this event, and they came up to Inverness. No one made them. It's just because it looked like an interesting event, and they came up. And it's one of those ones where I had been down to Edinburgh, so Lee knew me, and Lee had met me before, and I'd met him briefly at the year previous Loch Ness Baxter's Marathon. So I kind of knew him, but I didn't know Jamie from Adam, sort of thing. And it's the same with Emma Lipstick and Trainers. She is well versed in a lot of events. She knows what these events are about, and she was in communication with the team, the Loch Ness 2014. But she came up, she made the effort, and people go out of their way, and it's something that I want to reciprocate. I want to go down and meet Lee for running events, because we are friends. I want to go down to Edinburgh, but that, and if I really want to do events, I have to go the distance to do them anyway. So like to go down and do the Edinburgh Marathon again at some point, or do the half marathon, do the men's 10k, and go across to Glasgow and do the Great the Great Scottish Run, it's again at some point because it clashes with other events. There's always events on, or go down and do the Great Bristol Run, or come down and do, like you'd said, a run through event, and see your friend, see Emma, meet yourself for the first time. Even though I would still class you as a friend because we've had that much communication over the years. It's a really great community, and you will meet these people, and you will almost look back and go, how was there a time when I wasn't friends with these people?
That's just it. It's these people that you would never have spoken to at all if you didn't take up running. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, if you didn't open one door, you go through a different door and you might be in a different circle. So yeah. It's just the choices that you make. But it's the one thing that I always say about the running is yes, the times are great to you personally, but for me, and I'll go into it in detail in a marathon thing, it's enjoying the day itself. And I think if you train properly, it allows you to enjoy the event you're going to. Yeah. It takes a lot of the stress, a lot of the strains off of what you've been doing if you don't train properly. But the only way you're going to be able to train properly is conversing with people. So I actually set up a little group chat with a few people on Instagram that last year we was running marathons in autumns. There was one for I think Amsterdam was about the same time as was it? No, Berlin. Sorry, Berlin was around the same.
Amsterdam was October 15th last year.
Yeah, so they all fell within each other. I think Berlin was a couple of weeks before London, Amsterdam was a week or so after, and so on and so forth. I remember now because Nick Bester was doing a ridiculous challenge of 4 marathons in 4 weekends.
Yeah,
absolutely insane. I think I need about 2 weeks to recover after the marathon. And again, that's just relative to what your performance levels are. What is your normal training plan? So anyone that is listening, I hope you've not got bored and tuned out by now. If you're still with us, I've said it before, but message people. You believe me when I say we will never think, oh, Steve's messaging again.
Yeah.
Oh,
it might take you an hour or so to respond, but that's like we said throughout the whole podcast. Life, there's life as well, but we'll make the effort, and people do make the effort to respond.
Big time. Big time, and we'll pass on what worked for us, and maybe you could think, would it work for you? Maybe it doesn't, but the community is ridiculously good. Like, honestly, I'd feel, for the people I talk to, I'll be, like yourself, I would feel super comfortable in the personal presence because you've built that understanding beforehand. You've had these conversations, you go, yeah, he's a decent person, it's a sound person, someone who you would socialise with or you would take training advice from, and often I've given life advice. People give me life advice. I've had a little issue here or there and they say, oh, how's that going? So it's an outlet. It is an outlet, and it sort of stops your friends getting bored of your running life.
Yeah, certainly. My friends are mostly gaming nerds, so they have interests in other avenues of fitness, but at the same time, they just think running is torture, and they don't really want to hear more about it. They'll happily listen to me when I've finished a marathon or finished a half marathon, and I'm chuffed with my time. They'll listen to that, but at the end of the day, they just want a quick sound bite about it. They don't really want you to extol the virtues of running to them.
I think when I crossed the line at London, I was inundated with text messages. Well done, that's amazing, you've achieved it. I'm thinking, I've done the marathon before today. The marathon is the training itself.
Yeah, the marathon is this, like you said, and it's a phrase that a lot of people say, but you said on a number of occasions, it's the victory lap. You've put the effort into that point, and you have got to enjoy it as much as possible. I think that's a really good time to actually to go back to we are going to talk about our marathons. We are deliberately avoiding talking about them to a point because it will take up a lot of time. So I think we'll call it around about there. But yeah, so we are members of the 1% Club, and we do love nothing more but talking about our time that we ran a marathon. But like you hopefully picked up, we can't lie. It's hard. It's a lot of obstacles and a lot of lessons to learn. and you can only do it really from your own experience, but you can certainly reach out to people like myself and Steve and members of the community, big and small, who have had experiences in marathons and ultra marathons, if that's ultimately the goal you're looking for. But we'll cover that in episode 2. We'll cover the training, and we'll actually cover how the marathons have gone. And I do have another marathon on the calendar, but it isn't for a long time yet. It's 9 months away, so I have the time to enjoy my running as much as possible, whereas I don't have to subject myself to the insanity that Steve's having to subject himself to.
Yeah, I'm on week 3. Like I said, I'm fresh at the moment, but I made the mistake the other day of scrolling right through my week. So I was like, how many miles that week?
Actually, that's the point. What training block are you doing? Are you doing a 16-week training block?
Yeah, I'm doing 16 weeks
so
with a deload every 4th week.
Right. Okay. So in reality, you've got deload, so you've got more rest weeks. I stupidly, and this is again something to come back to for episode 2, but my preference is a 12-week training block.
You're a madman.
that's with very little deload. It's just intense. It's why we put ourselves through it is another reason. But we'll cover that in episode 2. So I think let's say we'll call it there. And if you've stuck with us for the duration, we can only thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. We'll hopefully as we go through our own kind of journey with the podcast, we'll find our feet. We'll find our groove to work around. And we both listen to other running podcasts, and we appreciate the hard work that they go through. But we also don't want to just mimic what someone else is doing. So yeah, hopefully you'll come back and join us as we share a little bit more about our adventures, our experiences, and try and help you as a listener or a member of the community who does follow us but maybe doesn't know as much as we share, because you can't ingest everything that everyone in the community has. So listening to it is for me a little bit easier to kind of consume. But if you have any questions, like Steve said, drop us a message. I'm at Mr_Steve_runs on Instagram, and you are, Steve?
At Runnerman Steve. Very, very simple name.
I actually kept mistakenly typing it as Running Man Steve for some reason, but Runner Man Steve for Steve himself.
Runner.
Sorry,
it was gonna be Running Man Steve, but it's very similar to, I found another user had Running Man and their name, so I thought I'll just call it Running Man Steve.
We'll tag it in the description, and also if you want to follow the podcast itself, if you found us through any of the social platforms for podcasts, if it's on Spotify, if it's on Apple, if it's on Amazon, we are also on Instagram with an account, and that is at the Point99 podcast. Give us a follow. We'll share some news about ourselves and other members of the community. Just try and share the love a little bit, and forward the positivity that you do, like we've been extolling, that it does happen. But yeah, you can also drop us an email. It's the same as our handle. It's the Point99 podcast at gmail.com. So feel free to fire us an email if you've got any questions, if you're not on Instagram, and we'll happily respond to you.
Absolutely. And any constructive feedback, constructive criticism, whatever you want to call it, that's always welcome, because like Steve said, this is our first episode, so it might seem a little bit disjointed. I'm not too sure of ones you've listened to that are quite polished, that have been doing it for quite some time, but we will get used to it, and it will hopefully be as informative every time for you. Oh no, my daughter's awake now.
That's a good time to call it quits.
That's a good time to call it quits.
Right, I think there. Well, until next time, as I say, we'll hopefully be bi-weekly, but please follow our social platforms and find out the next date for us to drop. But until next time, hope all your runs are productive, no matter what the fitness you're doing. Just try stay positive, and keep the motivation going, move forward.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
And there we go.